Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we are going to study together how to write a process essay. Process essay is highly important. We need to focus on some important points when we write a process essay. First, we will try to identify the definition of a process essay. A process, of course, we know a process, any process, not only a process essay, any process in our life needs steps. So when you are asked to write a process essay, you are asked to write a step-by-step essay. A process essay is an answer to how-to essay. This is really the simple definition of a process essay. The main goal of any process essay is to provide your reader with directions or guidance. Because actually, when you are writing a process essay, you are trying to give some information about the process, how it happens. For example, how something is done. You teach the steps for reaching a certain goal. This goal can be everything, starting from how something is built, how something is manufactured, to how you cook a delicious meal. So don't forget, a process essay, it's a type of essay that explains a process step by step and gives guidance for a certain process. So your main focus would be on the steps by which your reader can do this process. So you have to provide him with the steps. You have to provide him with working mechanism. You have to provide him with the procedures. And don't forget that any process essay can be simple or more complex. Because a process essay ranges from a very simple one, like a process essay about instructions for how to ride a bicycle, or a more complex one like chemistry lab report or engineering project report. So there are some important points that you need to consider when writing a process essay. If you need to explain a process in detail, you need to pay attention to the following points. Actually, when you are writing a process essay, you are giving a set of instructions for your reader. These instructions are involved in the steps you are writing to reach a desired goal, or the best way to do this process. But you have to put into your mind the audience you are writing for. You should always consider what your readers already know and what your readers don't know. How much information do your readers need? Because in this way, you can understand the process you are writing and what should be written about the process. Because if you write an essay describing, for example, the causes of heart disease, it's important, very, very important to know whether your readers are just high school students or they are surgeons or doctors. So audience is very important to be considered when we're writing a process essay. Another important point is the reason why you have selected this process, the reason behind the process, the importance of this process. Have you selected it randomly? Of course not. You selected it for a reason. So it should be highlighted in your essay. Don't forget to write about the advantages and the disadvantages of the process, the pros and cons of the process. And while putting into consideration these four important points, don't forget that the goal of any process essay is to give the reader guidance and directions. Now it's time to tell you about some important features of a process essay. It's really important to remember that every process essay includes features. What are these features? First feature is related to the narration. You writing. Narration here is you writing. Your narration should be clear and straightforward. So don't try to confuse your reader with complex language. Don't try to confuse your reader with unorganized thought threads. It's highly important to make your narration straightforward and clear. The second point is about the order you are going to follow when you are writing about the process. You are going to refer to different steps, step 1, 2, 3, 4. So you need to follow a logical order or a chronological order. Both of them are highly important, and it depends. It depends on the context, the process you are writing. So don't forget that you need to follow logical order or chronological order. Try to avoid skipping steps. Try to avoid shifting them around. Because if you do so, you will result in misunderstanding as well as frustration for your readers. So after referring to the importance of making your narration clear and straightforward, the importance of logical or chronological order of the steps, it's time now to know how we can make our essay flowing smoothly. To make our essay flow smoothly, you need to use some transition words. These transition words will help you to make a connection between the steps. Some words that are frequently used in process essay are further, then, next, first, last, finally, and initially. These are just examples. The last feature of a process essay is the description of the steps. You have to make sure that your steps are clear. Your steps are easy to follow by your reader. And also don't forget that it's essential to keep the sequence of steps in mind. If I ask you about these 8 topics, which one can be suitable process essay topics and which can't be? For example, number 1, steps in applying for a bank loan. Do you think it can be suitable process essay topic? It can be a suitable process essay topic. Of course, here steps. So you are going to talk about steps. So this is, of course, a good process essay topic. Number 2, Dubai or Istanbul as a vacation spot. Here, this is not a process essay because this is not a process at all. You are not going to explain steps or procedures or working mechanics. No, here you are going to make a kind of comparison and contrast between Dubai and Istanbul as a vacation stop. So this type of topic can be classified under the category of comparison and contrast essay. How to get a passport most efficiently. How to get a passport most efficiently, this is considered really a very good process essay because you are going to tell me about the steps that I should follow to get a passport most efficiently. Number 4, steps to convince citizens to support a candidate or issue. Here again, you are going to give me some information about the steps that I can follow to convince citizens to support a candidate or to support an issue. So this is also another good process essay topic. These are just 4 examples. So process essay, you are going to refer to steps. Don't forget, it's how to essay. And to answer how to, you have to give me step 1, step 2, step 3, or more steps, 4, 5, 6, 7, till your process essay is complete. How is a process essay organized? The most common way of organizing your process essay is chronologically. So in a chronological process essay, the writer describes the steps in the order in which they happen. Which happened first, which happened the next, which happened then, which happened after that, which happened finally. This is a chronological order. First, next, or first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and eventually. This method is helpful for teaching a person a new skill, like how to repair a computer. First, do what, next do so, or how to change the oil in a car. First, second, third, fourth. So in this way, the chronological order. This method, you will find that it's helpful for teaching a person this new skill for him, like repairing a computer or changing the oil in a car. Also, this method can be used when reporting the sequence of events in a natural event. If you are talking about hurricane, how a hurricane is formed. This is, of course, a natural event. Or how a butterfly is created. This is also another natural event. And you are going to tell me this in steps, in detail, in a chronological order. So organization is highly important, and it should be made chronologically by time. We have different kinds of process. We have different kind of process. We have goal process and more complex process. But don't forget that we have two main types of process essay: directional process essay and informational process essay. What is the difference between directional and informational? In both of them, actually, you give information. In both of them, you talk about steps in detail. But in directional, you show me, you illustrate, you try to tell me how to do something. But in informational process essay, no, you don't tell me how to do something, but you tell me how this thing works, how this thing is working. So this is the main difference between directional and informational process essay. In directional, you tell your reader about the way how to do something. But in informational process essay, you tell your reader how this happens. So when you explain how to for something, it means this is a directional process essay. How to apply for a credit card, how to get your driver's license, how to plan a wedding. All these types of essay classified as being directional process essay. And we have to put into our mind that the outcome, the result, is highly important. The outcome of the directional essay should be a result. In informational process essay, you don't explain how to do something, no, but how something works. For example, when you are talking about the weather forecast, how a weather forecast is determined, how a space rocket works, you are going to tell me steps, of course, working mechanics, procedures, but not how to, how something works. So you explain something to your reader, but in this type of essay, informational process essay, it doesn't necessarily end up with a result like directional essays. So we have some techniques of writing a process essay, like creating a list of directions or steps, making sure that you are not missing steps or directions, organize your steps You need to organize your steps. Don't confuse your reader. Keep your reader interested. These 5 points are highly important when you are writing a process essay. What about the general outline of a process essay? Any good process essay outline should contain 3 main aspects, 3 main components: introductory paragraph, body paragraphs, and concluding paragraph. So here we can say that it's a similar, the general outline is similar to the general outline of any academic essay, right? We start with introductory, followed by body, and finish with concluding paragraph. But maybe what will be included in each one will be different. They have the same general outline, like any academic essay, but what will be written in each one will be different. For example, in the introduction, you brief your reader on your topic. You explain why you have chosen this process in particular and not another process. You are going also to tell your reader how you are planning to approach the explanation of the process. In the body paragraphs, that could be 1, 2, 3, 4, or more, and which is the biggest part of your essay, it should be divided, of course, into paragraphs for easier understanding and also for easier structure. And you have to make sure that your paragraph is flowing smoothly into the text of the essay, into the next one. How? By using transition words, by using connectors. In paragraph number 1, in the body paragraph, for example, which you are going to tell your reader about the first step of the process, you explain what the step is, what the best way to perform it, how to avoid common mistakes when doing it. For example, if you are writing a process essay about how to succeed in an interview, and the first step was to do research on the company or the firm you are going to apply for. So you have to tell your reader about the step, what the step is. Your step here will be doing research on the company. So this is what the step is. It has to be mentioned. And then what the best way to perform it? What the best way to do research? You say that your step is doing research about this company. What is the best way to perform it? What is the best way to do research about the company? You can say, you can ask experts, you can ask employees who worked for this company and have experience in working for it, or you can look onto the internet. So you try to give your readers with the best ways to do this research. Also, don't forget to tell your reader how to avoid common mistakes when doing it. For example, you have to tell your readers, don't try to ask people who have no experience in the field. Don't try to be deceived by fake websites. So in every step, you have to do that. You tell your reader about what the step is, what's the best way to perform it, and how to avoid common mistakes when doing it. You will do the same in every step you are talking about. What about the concluding paragraph? Here, you need to explain why your instructions are valuable, why the steps you have referred to in your body are valuable. This is your chance to convince your reader that the steps you presented and you talked about in the body paragraphs are useful, are valuable for the reader. So in this slide, I want to tell you about some important points to do as a process essay writer. The first thing that you want to do as a writer for your process essay is to help your reader to be interested in your individual process that you have selected in particular. You need to be descriptive about it. You need to paint a picture for your readers about the process you are writing about. You need to give a little bit of historical background, because usually readers like to know the origins of whatever it is that they are working on. You need to give a sense of purpose. And you need also, especially for those who are working in the field of science or engineering, to create an approximate time frame. Because readers want to know how long this process will take. So in this way, your reader can obviously create their own time schedule. Thesis statement is one of the most important aspects of any introductory paragraph, especially in process essay. Strong thesis statement for a process essay tell the reader that you are going to explain how to do something if it's a directional process essay, or how something happens if it's informational process essay. The simplest thesis statement directly says the number of steps involved in the process. So in any thesis statement, of a process essay, you really need to tell me about the steps that will be involved in the process. Not, of course, what are the steps? No, only the number of steps. But sometimes also I can write strong thesis statement without referring to the number of steps. But you have to put into your mind, if you are not going to refer to the number of steps in your thesis statement, you have to let your reader feel that you are going to write about steps in the body paragraphs. These are some examples for thesis statement with number of steps. Here, the students were asked to write about the stages that the children need to learn to speak. Stages that the children need to learn to speak. This is one of the suggestions for a strong thesis statement in which you include the number of steps. Children go through 4 stages in learning to speak. So here you have referred to the number of steps, 4 stages. So surely you are going to refer to 4 stages in body paragraphs. In another topic, the students were asked to write about buying online, how it happens in a process essay. So this is another strong thesis statement about this topic. Buying almost anything online involves 3 distinct steps. Also here, you are going to refer to these 3 distinct steps in your body paragraphs. These are some other examples for thesis statement, but without referring to the number of steps. But when you read these examples, you will discover that this is a process essay because your body paragraphs will include steps, even if you haven't referred to the number of steps in your thesis statement. Students were asked to write about adaptation to a new culture. If you were given a scholarship in a foreign country, in UK, in US, wherever, and you were asked to write an essay about adapting to a new culture there. So you can suggest a thesis statement like this one. Adapting to a new culture can be incredibly difficult unless you know what to expect. Of course, unless you know what to expect, it means that you are going to tell me the steps, about the steps or the procedures that I have to follow to be able to adapt to a new culture. Here, no reference to the number of steps, but it's implied. It can be understood. Another topic was about playing chess, how it's complicated. Playing chess. One of the suggestions made by some students was playing chess may appear to be complicated, but it's actually an easy game if you understand the basic rules. Here, no reference to the number of steps. But when you are referring to the basic rules, it means that you are going to tell me about steps. This is an example for a process essay entitled How to Save Money. How to save money. If this is the topic of your process essay, how to save money, your introduction, how it should start. You can start your introduction of your process essay by explaining, especially for you as a college student, how you need money and how you are stuck sometimes with bad money habits. This will make a good connection with your reader. Because you know, students, everyone has been in a situation of needing to be saving with their finances. Another thing that you can mention also is the importance of saving money and the multiple opportunities it presents, like being able to invest money, being able to pay off a credit card debt, being able to save up to avoid taking out a student loan. In the body paragraphs, you will find that this is the point in the process essay where you start introducing the step-by-step process that your readers will need to take. It helps to break down each process into subsections. These subsections are the steps you are going to talk about or to write about. And if a step has many parts to it, it would be clever from you to create a paragraph on its own just for that step. If you think that this step in particular has many parts related to it, it will be better, it will be clever to create a paragraph on its own just for that step. And remember that it's important to keep things smooth and efficient. Each step should be carefully explained. And don't forget to explain the purpose. And don't forget to use transition, because transition words will make everything flow smoothly. This is an example for outline of body paragraphs of a process essay on how to save money. This is another example for another topic, which is entitled How to Evaluate a Restaurant. In the introduction, which should include hook, some connecting information, and thesis statement, you can actually refer to the steps that you are going to do to evaluate a restaurant. Some of you may say that we need some steps before our visit, and we need to tell or talk about some steps after we visit the restaurant. Before you visit a restaurant, first step, you can check the quality of the restaurant's website. Second step, to analyze the restaurant's location. Third step, to compare the restaurant's prices with the prices of competing restaurants. In body paragraph 2, after you visit a restaurant, you write about the restaurant's atmosphere. You describe the food. You analyze the restaurant's strength and weakness. And in the conclusion, you try to restate the thesis, give suggestions, express opinion, or make predictions. In Your conclusion, please don't forget that any process essay needs a confident conclusion. And you need to discuss the main result. You need to restate the process general purpose, and you need to state your overall conclusion. That is enough for today. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you have enjoyed our session. See you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.